Hi, I'm Jennifer Woosley Saylor. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor and the kid of a cop. And this is the podcast When the Call Hits Home.
Hey everyone, it's Ashley Gethner. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I'm also a child of a police officer.
Hi, welcome back to the podcast When the Call Hits Home. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Ashley, and today I have my little sister on. Well, she's not like biologically my little sister, but she's definitely my little sister. Like there's no difference in life here. So, I'm super excited. We grew up together. We grew up in a little small town together called Belvidere, Illinois. And if you don't know what that is, that's exactly why. Cows and corn. So, if you can imagine, we had to come up with a lot of different things to keep ourselves busy. We got into a lot of trouble together. I don't know. My best memories are with Bree. So I'm going to hand it over to her now to introduce herself and I guess teach you all a little bit about her. So go ahead, Bree.
Hi, I'm Bree. Thank you so much, Ashlee and Jennifer, for having me on. I really appreciate it. You guys do awesome work and we enjoy listening to your podcast, so I appreciate it. I grew up with Ashlee for a long time. She's like my big sister that I never had. We do have a lot of fun memories together. I am married to a firefighter paramedic. We've been together a little over 10 years now. And I'm also a nurse. I worked in the neonatal intensive care unit and we just had our first baby like 7 months ago. So I'm currently staying home with him, which I enjoy very much.
The hard
Oh,
job is a hard job, though.
It
very
is a
hard
very
job.
hard job. It's a never ending job.
Yeah, right. For sure. Absolutely.
Well,
Uh,
congratulations on a new baby. And I was saying before we hit record, like you're one of the people that know Ashley the longest. So I want all the stories on her, but we'll talk a little bit more about being a new mom, a nurse, and married to her first responder today. So you guys have been together for 10 years. How'd you guys meet?
So we met when I was in high school. We actually went to the same high school, but we never saw each other. He is a little older than me and he did like a dual program thing. So he was only at the high school for like a couple hours and then he went and to the college and did classes.
Hmm.
And we met through mutual friends. And actually, it's kind of funny because like my friend group was trying to set him up with one of our friends, and my husband was trying to like set me up with one of his friends. So like we really weren't interested in each other and we were like trying to set each other up. That did not work, obviously, and now we've been together for a little over 10 years.
That sounds like a really cute movie script that you guys should write.
Yeah.
That's pretty adorable.
isn't
Well, thank
she's
you.
super adorable. Like I feel like this could really, really pan out. This will be our next project. No, we're just kidding. Start filming a movie. But I cannot, you were like 10 years, and I'm like, holy moly. Like, time goes
I
so
know.
fast. I can't really believe that. And that is so fair. Do you feel like, I know that there's no way to absolutely always prepare yourself for things in life, but I mean, I guess growing up, were you ever interested in first responders? Like, I don't know, some people are always like, yes, I like those firemen. Or how did you prepare? Were you prepared to be married to a firefighter?
So I grew up, I did not have any first responders in our family. Like I didn't really know anything about it or anything about them or the field or career. I didn't want to be a nurse either when I was like in high school. My mom actually went to nursing school probably when I was like in middle school or so. I'm not 100% sure, but and she kind of like inspired me to become a nurse and kind of like
Okay.
went down that career path. And like we're like really the only two nurses, and now we have a bunch of people in the family of firefighter, paramedic, nurses, all kinds of things. I was not prepared at all for being in a relationship with a first responder. I didn't know what that was like or I didn't know anything about it. When we first got together, we kind of lived a little ways away from each other, so like I would only see him on the weekends. And he's been doing it since we met. So it was like a whole new life, a whole new world for me. I would typically only see him like on the weekends, and at the time he was on the fire department where he could like during the day he had to be at the firehouse, but like at night he could respond from home, which was nice and it wasn't because I would drive to come see him and it never fails. Like I would get there and he would have to leave. And like it took a couple hours for him to like come back home. And, then it was like, well, I have to go home now or whatever. It was really hard for me at first and it really It was a learning curve. Like I had to
Hey,
learn
an
a lot.
adjustment for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like I got upset a lot or not really mad at him because like I knew obviously he had to go, but it was like, oh, I really wanted to spend time with you and now we can't, and now I won't see you for another couple weeks or whatever. So that was hard. But then we moved in together a couple of years later, and I think that was like the hardest transition because I grew up in a family. I have two younger siblings too. Like there was always people at home, always things going on. And then we move in together and live together, and he's gone all the time. Like
Right.
like, and if we do have time together, like he can leave any second. So, I was very lonely and like I didn't know anybody really in this town that we lived in. I was, I wasn't lived close to my family. So it was just like it was a very big adjustment for me to go from, everybody around all the time to like just me.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you being so honest about that. And you kind of went ahead and answered my next follow-up question. So thank you for like sharing all that stuff. But I
Mhm.
appreciate what you said there so beautifully in terms of like, I was frustrated. I wasn't frustrated at him, but to travel all this way, to make plans, and as usual, the plans change. That is a frustrating thing. And I think sometimes it can be a hard dynamic in first responder relationships to say, I'm not mad at my first responder, but I am frustrated. And I think sometimes there's not always space for both of those. That
Right.
if you're frustrated, well, you're frustrated with your first responder, and that's not fair. Or the opposite, well, I just can't be frustrated. And so then, a person can just kind of push those feelings away. And so I think you said that beautifully of like, hey, this was my feeling, but, I recognize obviously that he didn't have any control over that and understood it. And I appreciate you also too, just acknowledging like, hey, it was really lonely that time when we first moved in and, him not being there. I think that's an experience I often hear in that first year of marriage or first year of living together with first responders.
Yeah, and I think too, so I'm a nurse, and like he went through paramedic school at the same time I was kind of going through nursing school.
Okay.
So it was also kind of nice at the same time because we were both busy, we were both like studying, and I mean we could like help each other in a way too because like it's in the medical
Yeah, yeah,
field.
yeah. They overlap some for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, we could like study and stuff together. Like after I got my nursing license and stuff, I worked night shift. So it was kind of nice because I worked the same shifts that he did.
Mm.
So we would both come home, and I mean, I worked nights, so I was tired, and he was up all night or whatever, and he would be tired too. So like it was nice because we'd both come home and go to sleep or take a nap or whatever. So that was kind of nice, and I also kind of learned like when he's gone for 24 hours, like those are my days to like do stuff for me. Like
Yeah.
would try and like, I could sit on the couch and watch TV in my pajamas all day and nobody would know. You know, like or I could go shopping or hang out with friends or, do whatever. So I tried to like do things so I wasn't, so lonely and, like it was just a big adjustment. So I had to learn how to do things myself
I actually
too.
really love this because I don't know that we've ever stopped to talk about like what does it look like for self-care for that spouse? You
You're
know what
right.
I
We
mean?
haven't talked about that.
Right. And I think that you just described that perfectly. Like I do think that people either let that consume them or your
Hmm.
resiliency right now is like, no, okay, how do I work with this? Right? If
Mhm.
this is our life now and neither of us can control it to a degree, right? Like, how do I take care of myself then within these 24 hours so that when he does come home or we are a family again, hopefully it's a good, like a good time. Like, and if we're
Right.
not pouring into ourselves, that can be really, really hard to do. So I feel like I hear you saying, I took the time to recognize, like, you know what? He's working. I miss him. And I got to do me a little bit too. I got to
I
be
can
my
still fill this time. I can still fill, instead of sitting in those feelings, I can do things to adjust that. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, like you guys said, I mean, it's my life now, so like I have to, adjust to it and learn. And yeah, that helped me. And then I also like became good friends with one of the other wives of
Oh, okay.
somebody on the department. And that was very nice because people don't know what it's like until you're living in it. Like
Absolutely.
I can tell somebody 100 times, like, try and explain it, and nobody truly gets it until you're in it. And so it was
Mhm.
just nice to have somebody that I could talk to. Like our husbands were both on the same shift, so they were working the same day. So like we would also like get together and do stuff because they were gone, so we would hang out. And it was just nice because it was somebody to talk to also who like got the situation that you were in as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
that's
is nice when you're not having to explain things, right? Like,
Right.
husband wanted to be here at this
mm,
Yes.
party, but he got called away. And that you don't have to explain your situation to somebody. That's always.
Yes, I get all the time, like, oh, like, where's he at? Like, we haven't seen him in a while, and I'm like, I mean, he feels just as bad.
Well,
Like,
of
of course,
course.
nobody wants to,
exactly.
like, miss anything, but, like, that's just, it's life. Like, that's what we have to do. It's just, we work around things. Like, our son was born, and my husband worked, like, Christmas and Thanksgiving, like, all the major holidays
Mhm.
for his first holidays. And like it sucks, but like we try and celebrate other days, like
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be that specific day that we need to celebrate. This year we like had a huge family gathering the week before Christmas, and like we all got to get together and stuff, so like we still celebrate. We just kind of got to like learn how to adjust and do different things.
Well, I think that's a beautiful way to say, like, we're prioritizing this family time, but we get to make it on our terms too. And instead of it's just like, well, we missed Christmas, so we didn't have Christmas. Well, no, we still celebrated. We just did it for our family in that way. That's
Right,
beautiful.
right.
So you already brought him up, but there is a precious little baby that has entered this world. He's the cutest little guy.
He is
And
adorable.
something that we have kind of talked about, right, is like Jennifer and I were talking about it, and I'm like, we haven't really had anyone on here yet who really has like really literally firsthand experience of
Mhm.
what it is like navigating a newborn, like becoming parents for the first time, and then having a spouse as a firefighter, right? And so obviously to which you're comfortable here, but just kind of wondering how did becoming a mom kind of change like your dynamic a little bit, or what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, so I think before we had our son, it was like, like I said, like I could take me time, I could do what I want, or it was just him and I. And if like my husband was gone, like I didn't have to think about anybody else but myself, and I get a little nervous like around storms and like, tornadoes. Like I don't like that. And we're getting up on that and it's bad weather. And like a lot of times, like my husband will leave and he's like, I know like you're safe, you're okay, I know all where you're at, whatever. Well, now it's like, okay, but now I have another human like
Uh,
that, that we have and that we have to take care of and that we have to think of. And like, I don't know, it's just very different. Like before, like I said, it was just me, and now it's like we have a son. And so it's still important for like my husband to take care of himself so that he can be the best dad and best husband for, us, our family. Because now, like, we're tired all the time. We have a 7 month
Right.
old and he never sleeps. And so, when my husband goes to work and he's up all night and then comes home, he's tired. I mean, like he has to take care of himself too and take a nap or something so that he can be the best dad for, our son and best husband for, all of us. Now it's like difficult because we have to think of like, okay, we need plans A, B, C, D, and E
Right.
because if these don't work out, like we have to do something.
Mhm.
I mean, like well, I'm going to use today as an example. Like he was going to be home and watching him, but he got a call and had to go. So it's like, I have to figure out, okay, what are we doing with, Dawson? Like, who's going to watch him? Who's going to take care of him? So it's definitely a big adjustment. It's just, I'm learning every day, learning new things. I think one of my bigger things is like expectations. Like I can't, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but I can't expect Damien to be home or rely on him to be home at a certain time, because most of the time it does not go that way. So like I have to think of things or plan, like I have to go about my day. Like if we have something to do, like I have to go do it, and I learned how to do it with our son. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
It's just a learning curve, just a learning curve. Like
I literally love this right now because I think you're making such big, like this is going to be a huge impact, I think, for new moms who are married to first responders, because I think that's so true. Like, again, right? This piece of like, it's not that you're not disrespecting your husband at all.
right, no.
Obviously know that he can't control it, he can't help it. But the
Right.
reality is these jobs impede on consistency, right?
Right.
And like,
Right.
it makes it incredibly hard, like you're saying, to plan all these things when it can change on a dime.
Right. And like, I mean, right now, like our son like has a routine, like,
Yeah.
and we have to keep that for our sake and for his sake. But it's like, okay, like, Damien's supposed to be home at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, I can't be like, okay, he's gonna like be home at 7. He's gonna help me out with the baby. He's gonna, make breakfast. And like, I can't be like that, because then a lot of times, like, those expectations won't be met, and then you just get upset about it.
Right.
And like I said, it's not like it's their fault or anything, but it's just, if you have those expectations, and they don't get met, then it's, upsetting. So I feel like the best way I go about things is like, I just have to do what works for us, and, like, continue our routine and stuff. And then when he is home, like, he joins in and he helps out, and he's a great dad. I just have to kind of go and do my thing.
Well, I appreciate that wisdom to know, like, well, I could sit here with all these expectations, but I'm just, really setting myself up if that doesn't happen. And again,
Right.
I think you're really speaking into Ashley's point again. Babies do need routine. That's an important part of a baby being home and trying to set up some normalcy in this alien that just showed up at our doorsteps in a lot of ways. And I think to say, like, it is hard to have a routine with somebody who's responding to emergencies. Those aren't set up with routines or with clock in and clock out times. Like that is a difficult thing. And so I mean, it is hard hearing you like to say like, "Ugh, I kind of got to do it, because that's got to get done." But at the same time, it's like, I think you're doing it in a really wise way. And knowing when he does show up, he's amazing. It's just, well, I'm not going to sit and wait and know exactly when he's going to show up. So we're going to continue on. I
Right.
actually had a NICU question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of being a nurse in a NICU, and I'm thinking about all that you know about babies, and then becoming a mom, was there anything, I don't know, just can you talk a little bit about that in terms of like having so much information about babies and their well-being and how to take care of them to becoming a mom of your own baby?
Yeah, so I love my job. I love working in the NICU. I don't right now because I am staying home with our
You have a
son. But
baby.
yeah, I loved it, and of course, like, I got upset because it's all like, preterm, it's all very sick babies. When I had Dawson, it really affected me. I really struggled at work because I was like, starting an IV, I was like, I cannot poke this baby. Like, I just kept like seeing my son, and I was like, it broke my heart. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
I just can't do this. And so it was really hard for me to do that, like go back to work and see, all the sick babies. And like pregnancy was hard for me too because I see all the bad things that go wrong all the time. And so I was like anxious all the time because I was like, what if this happens to me or what if this
Right.
happens to me? And then he was here and I was like, what if he's doing that? Like he's acting weird. Like, does he have this? It's like he's doing this. Does he have this? And I was trained, like being a nurse, like I assess 24/7. I'm
Right.
watching my babies. I don't want to say looking for something wrong, but like,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
making sure that there's nothing wrong constantly. And so when we had him, and I'm like, is he breathing okay? He has this rash. Like, what does this mean? And Damien was like, my husband was like, he's fine. He's not those preterm babies. He's not a sick baby. He doesn't, like, and so it was very hard for me to like come back. And it still is sometimes,
Of
I'm
course.
stepped away from it for now. So it's gotten a little better, but yeah, it was very hard. And sometimes, like I say, the more like the worse it is sometimes.
Can I just say, I'm going to overshare here for a second, but when we started and you said you were you nurse, I was like, oh man, how lucky for your baby that, you're a nurse. Because what I could have given, I was such an anxious mom and I had some postpartum anxiety after I had my son. And I'm thinking, oh, you'll have all this information because you're a nurse and like how lucky for your baby. But it makes it worse in a lot of ways. And I think, I hear that like, because you know everything that can go wrong because you're
Right. Right.
so,
For both of us, like
I was
for
just about to say that. I'm like, doesn't really
yeah,
get better on his end either. Like,
no, like my husband too, like, he saw horrible things, went to, like with children and things. And so like he was like we were both anxious people. And so like we went to the doctors one time and I like was like, well, what if this? What if this? And she like looked at me and she's like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, I'm a NICU nurse. And she's like, looked at my husband. She's like, what do you do? And like he told them, and she's like, oh, so that's why you guys are so anxious. And I'm like, it's horror,
Mhm.
like it's the
Yeah,
truth. Like when you see all those bad things every day, like it's hard to think because like people are like, you need to stop. Like you need to look back and see, you're only seeing a portion of society or whatever. Like there's
right,
so many babies who are healthy. There's so many
right.
people who are healthy. Like you guys are just seeing the worst. And so like you need to realize, which is very very hard to realize when all you see is bad every day. Yeah, it was hard for me to go from being a NICU nurse to having a baby then. I knew like how to do some things versus,
Yeah.
if I wasn't, I'd probably be like, I have no idea. But then at the same time, it made me more anxious because it was like, he doesn't have a wet diaper. Is something wrong? Like, is he dehydrated? Like all these things
Hmm.
just in your mind. And like I said, same for my husband too. Like, I don't know, like SIDS and things like that. Like we've seen issue.
You've seen
Like
the worst of the
that.
worst.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it was hard. It was hard.
well, and I have a little question to bounce off of this, if that's okay, of like, how much time did he get off when the baby was born?
He was actually pretty lucky, and I was very thankful. He had like 3 weeks off, and then he went back a day, and then he had like 4 weeks off total.
Okay.
um, which was very nice. It was very nice to have him home, and I think it was just a big adjustment for both of us. So it was nice to have that time as a family. But when he did go back to work, it was hard
Oh, so
because,
hard. So
yeah,
hard.
like it is. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
can you just stay home forever?
Hmm. Right.
I'm by myself with this newborn who he was a very difficult baby. Like he had lots of issues in the beginning, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm by myself for 24 hours. And then, my husband's coming home and he's tired. Like he has to get sleep. So it's like, then I'm by myself still with this baby who, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, and that's
um,
why I brought this up, right? Because I think that there's some truth to like all those thoughts you just shared, right? Of being overly nervous about all these things, and then all of a sudden you're just alone, right?
Hmm.
So you have not only that, but you're postpartum, right? Like
right,
that's just like you have to go through that because you're a woman and like
right.
you're home alone and all these things. And I was just thinking about that because I was like, well, how much time did he get off? I mean, yeah, it sounds like he got more than maybe other people do, but like in the grand scheme, like 4 week, 3 weeks,
It's
4 weeks
not a
is
lot.
nothing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Right.
that notion of like you're alone 24 hours.
Oh, I was
Right.
a puddle when my husband went back to work after we'd had our son. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it is
And
extremely
it's just
hard.
like I was like super anxious and stuff. And so like at least him being home, I could like have him tell me like it's okay, like one day our son never slept. And so one day he was sleeping like 2, 3 hours and I called my husband at work and I was like, something's wrong with him. Like you have to come look at him. And he's like, you need to relax. Like he's okay. Like
Right.
that's what babies do is they're supposed to sleep. And it was just hard for me. And yeah, like you said, like now I have to adjust to this life of me taking care of this baby and it's just us two while Damien's at work for 24 hours. And I think the other thing people don't realize is he's not just gone for 24 hours. Sometimes he's gone for 48 hours.
Hmm.
And even like if he works for those 24 and he's home, at any second he can leave. He's going to leave. Like if there's, a fire or like people are calling for extra help. And like I do get it. Like, he's like, if it were me asking for help, I would want people to show
Of
up.
course,
So
of
like
course.
I don't get, again, it's that expectation. Like I have in my mind, like he's going to leave at any second. So like, just kind of knowing that, I guess, because like I said, it's not just the 24 hours. Like it's any time. I mean, there's many times like we are going to the grocery store and he's like, we got a call, I have to go. Like, and he goes. Or like I've been in the car with him a couple times. He's like, we have to go instead of going to this place or whatever. And
Mhm.
we have to, like it is what it is, like
Right.
you then, okay, then I'll sit on my phone and sit and scroll TikTok or something, and try and like find something to do or find something for yourself or something because life never goes the way you want it to go.
Mhm.
That's so fair. I know we've been pretty heavy on kind of these, like, I just think they're the realities of what it is to be a new parent while you're first responders, right? And your husband's a firefighter. But what would you say that you enjoy most about parenting with Damien, with a firefighter?
I honestly, there's so much. I mean, it's like just so cool to like have him grow up in a family like that.
Mhm.
My husband's fire department is amazing. They're all so amazing. They will do anything for us at any point. I bring our son down to go see him, all the time, and everybody just like loves him, like wants to, play with
Oh.
him and whatever. Like, the chief. I mean, they're all so great. And I think Dawson, our son, like he's with me all the time. So like I come home and Dawson's just like, oh, it's just mom again. But like he hasn't seen dad in 24 hours. So like dad comes home and he like lights up and he's smiling and laughing at him. And I just think that's really cool to see, like them two bond. And like I know like it's kind of hard because they're away, but at the same time, like when they come home, like Dawson, like I said, he gets so excited to see him. Like he loves him.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of cool. And I mean, it really is like a big family. I'm friends with like a lot of the wives, or I mean, a bunch of people down at the fire station I'm friends with. So that's really nice because, like I said, again, we all have something in common. Like we get each other's schedules, we get, them being gone or, whatever. And I have a friend who also her husband's a first responder and works with my husband and they just had a baby too. And so it's like,
Oh.
we can raise our kids together and I think that's just kind of cool. And yeah, like I said, I take Dawson down to see him and like see the
Yeah,
fire
I
trucks
love
and see
that.
the
Their pictures
lights.
are the
And,
sweetest. Their pictures are the sweetest.
Oh.
Sitting in front of the
yeah.
Well, I
truck.
have to say, I just love this idea of like, parenting with a first responder. It sounds like you get such a bigger family. It sounds like the firehouse is its own family that gets to be in your son's life. So that's just beautiful. I love
Yeah, I love it. He's got lots of aunts and uncles down there. So
that. That's wonderful.
yeah.
what would you want new moms to know when parenting with the first responder? Like from your experience, what would you think would be, oh, this would be, I don't know, something I would want to pass on?
I think communication is like a big thing. I think
Mm,
you really need to like for example, we have like a Google Calendar and like we share what we're doing for the day or whatever. Like I know Monday nights like he's at training every night, so like I can kind of plan our stuff around his schedule too. And like I said, just communicating with each other, like what do you need? What do you need from me? What does he need from me? I think my biggest thing again is like those expectations. Like
mhm.
don't try not to have those high expectations because it's only going to, make things worse. I think when you go into the day like, okay, it's just me and the baby or whatever, like then if he's home, great. Like it's extra family time you guys get together. But if not, like, at least you planned for just the two of you.
Mm,
I think it is important to like try and find those friends who understand the same situation that you're in.
right.
I think that's very helpful, like whether they're moms or not, like it's just nice to have that other person that you can talk to about things, about their work or schedule or, whatever. And just like try to, I know it's very hard, but like just try and enjoy. Like
Yeah.
I love being home with my son. Like I try and look at it from like, okay, like I'm the one who gets to teach him things, or I'm the one who gets to watch it, just like different things like that.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Well, and it goes by quickly. I mean, when I got to see your
yes.
handsome little boy, I'm like, oh, I wish mine was that small still. Like it goes by so quick. So I think that's beautifully said. I feel like you've given us so much great information, Bree, from talking about your own experience as a nurse. I really appreciate you sharing that to what it's been like on this journey. But I was also promised some like Ashlee stories and some Ashlee dirt.
Okay, okay.
So
So Bree, like, yes, this is her first time being involved. Like her husband is the first responder, right? But she was exposed at a young age to a wild one that everybody on this show knows and has grown to love. So she grew up with Craig as well. And I do want to ask, what was that like for you? I mean, I have to think that it was a little bit different coming into my household when you were a kid and seeing just how he was or how things were done or what that looked like. So I guess from your outside perspective, like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. So I do want to share really quick. So back to like the mom thing. I went to a fire conference for spouses, and one of the things that really stuck with me, they said like, you have to like find your people that you can connect with, rely on, talk with. And I think like I kind of goes back to like with what I said about like finding, those people because it is super helpful. And I know I'm like on Facebook pages and stuff, and like some people say like our departments are small, like we don't really have that, or I can't talk to people or whatever. And like, I mean, I'll be your friend. I don't know, like,
Love
try and
that.
find people because it is really important and it has really helped me. So, if anybody can, yeah, I
You
think,
know, community is just such an important part of building any healthy resiliency or any kind of healthy, interpersonal skills within ourselves. Like, feeling alone in a situation, no matter what it is extremely hard. And I think that's a beautiful point, Bree, that building community is so important.
yeah, yeah. And then, yeah, back to Ashlee. I, Ashlee was she got worried a lot
Oh,
about her dad. She
child.
would come over all the time and she would be like, I haven't heard from him. Something's going on.
Oh,
And me like being a kid, like I didn't understand like what I'm like, Ashlee, he's probably sleeping or something, like even my mom, like I remember her saying, like, he's probably sleeping, like, it's fine. Like nobody like understood like her worries, And now as I'm older and like I am in that life, like I do get where she was coming from. But yeah, it was just interesting to see like like hear about her and her dad. And I personally thought like it was cool. Like I was like, oh yeah, her dad's a police officer, like she tells me all these cool things she does. You know, I know she talks about the 4th of July thing a lot, and I know, you know, she's talked about that a lot. And, you know, I was like, oh, wow, you know, like those are so cool. But I remember one time, I don't know if I was like maybe in middle school or something, and
I'm
you guys like
nervous.
talk about
I'm
like
nervous.
you guys talk about like strict rules and stuff. And one time I go over there, and her dad's like a taller, bigger guy, and I had my nails painted, and he's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "My nails were painted black." And he's like, "You have black nail polish on." He's like, "You cannot wear that. You need to like take it off." And I was like, "What? Like I can't have black nail polish. Like what does this mean?" And like I still joke with him sometimes because I'm like, that has stuck with me, you know, like
Bree's
I
never
didn't
painted her nails black again.
know. I'm like, I cannot do this. Like, you know, I can't be like that, you know, like nothing wrong with it, but it was just like, you know,
Oh,
one of
apparently it
those,
was wrong for him. He was like,
right,
absolutely
He
not.
didn't let us girls. We were not allowed to. And I think that has to go back to like, I think he literally in his brain equated like black nail polish to like you being like a rebel or
right,
like like just like I guess emo, whatever, 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 right? Like goth, whatever. I don't know, like just not
Some
in his brain.
antisocial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And then like my dad's like me. When I love hard. When I let people in, I let people in hard, right? Like that's just how it is. And so like for poor Bree, like she was brought into our family. So then my dad was like, "Well, I'm gonna treat you the same way.
So I'm going
like,
to parent you.
You're not gonna get out of this." Like, you know, oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I
yeah,
could see though having your friend's dad be a police officer and your dad is tall and being like, what? Like that would be so scary.
yeah. It was just like funny because I was like, oh, okay, you know, I can't do that again, and I can't go over there, you know, with my nails painted or whatever. Yeah, and I do remember like going over there and like you know spending the night and stuff, and like it'd be daylight, and like he would be sleeping or something, you know, like he'd be, we gotta be quiet, like my dad's sleeping, or you know, and I guess I never really thought twice about it. I was just like, oh, okay, you know, he's sleeping, you know, whatever. Like I said, now that I'm older and like I am married to a first responder, like I get it. You know, I get like, you know, she'd be like, okay, you can come over, but you have to be quiet. We can't be loud. You know, like you're gonna wake my dad. And I was like, we don't want to wake your dad. You know.
Yeah, nobody wanted to wake up Craig, that's for sure.
You know, but I remember like we used to have like fires, you know, all together as neighbors and stuff, and like, you know, he would talk about it or tell us like you know, funny stories or something. And I don't know, I just thought it was like really cool and interesting to hear him talk about it. And he was so like passionate about it too, you know, like he loved doing what he did. So it
Yeah.
was just yeah, it was nice. And I love their family very much.
I will call
They
us
are
out one
wonderful.
time. We were way too young, so I don't know who allows us to do these things, but Bree and I got into a really bad go-karting
I
accident.
knew you were gonna say that.
Oh
And
no.
like really bad. Like and his response was terrible. Like Bree, I don't know if you even remember that, but I was bleeding from everywhere. And he comes and he gets the go-kart off of us, but he just immediately started screaming at me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Screaming at me. Like bad. Like I couldn't, I was in shock. So I don't even know
what
like
was that? Yeah.
what exactly was said. But like now that I'm older and I look at it, I'm like, Bree was probably like, what the hell? Like her parents were like, are you guys okay? How
Comforting.
Right. Yep.
comforting? What do we do? Get her to the hospital, right? Like we have to, and there's like my dad was so just like, I think it's fear-based. I think it was fear-based, right? We just had this big accident, you know, like instead of being like, are you guys okay? His initial reaction was to get angry. Like, why did this
Right.
happen?
Right.
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 Right? Like we could have avoided this. Why did it happen?
Hmm.
Which I always think back on and I'm like, that is such a first responder response.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
then it was like comforting. And I had to laugh just now. I don't know if you guys saw me look down because as we're talking, her dad liked like his name popped up on my phone for the podcast. And I was like, that's so us. Like her family is my
Aw.
family. Like, yeah,
That's beautiful that you guys
this
support each
day.
other so much like that. That's great.
100%.
Yeah.
And so Bree came to me. Bree listens to us. She's a big fan. Her husband's amazing. I love their fire department. And she said, how do I make a difference? Like, you guys are doing all this work. Like, how do I make a difference? And I was like, you just come on and you tell your story and you're going to hit somebody in some way that they need to hear it. And like, just giving us your time today, Bree, means the world to both of us. And for real, you're going
Absolutely.
to help other firefighter wives who just had babies who are maybe feeling like, holy crap, I don't know if I can do this alone. Right.
Hmm.
Like, and I hope that you recognize that everything that you do, going to the conference, talking here, doing whatever, right? Like being able to be like, I will be that friend, like is making a huge difference in this world. And so give yourself some grace for real, because that's incredible.
It really is. It really is. I mean, being a new mom and just carving out time for this is a huge deal, let alone all the information that you shared today and being so open. I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. And you guys are doing amazing things. You guys have amazing people on here. And I really do appreciate it. And we both, my husband and I both do. I am definitely, if somebody needs a friend or somebody to talk to, I am definitely there because it's hard and, it's a rough journey, but it's very rewarding and I would not change it for the world.
And what we can do is we can post like when this airs, like we'll post on Facebook your little bio and stuff like that. And maybe people reach out that way or whatever you want. We can make that happen because we can just keep growing our community that way too. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Bree. And we are just going to end this the way we always end it. And that is that when the call hits home, Jennifer and I are always here for you guys.